Okay, I think it looks like it's working. I'm using an encoder for the first time, so we're checking this out here. Let me like pull this up and pull the chat up. Okay, I think we're good. Cool. Hey guys. All right, I'm Steph Maraca. I have had this channel since 2018, and I've been doing painting tutorials on it, streams, and then in 2024 I had a baby, and then I spent a lot of 2025 being a mom. Hey, how's it going? All right, we got somebody in the chat. Ruth, hello. So I did not do a lot of tutorials last year, so I'm hoping to get back into that this year, and I'm planning the first one. I'm gonna do like a series, like every week I'm gonna do a new tutorial, basically starting from basic beginner acrylic painting tutorials and then working our way up every week, learning something new until the end of this year. And hopefully by the end of this year we'll have a nice community of people together here, so we'll see how that goes. But for now, I just wanted to test out this whole streaming thing. You can see me up there. You can see the painting. We're gonna work on down here. Everything appears to be working so far. I'm using like a new encoder here that I've never used before, so I'm like feeling out the process as I'm getting started here. I wanted to do this tonight before I dive into this tomorrow. So this little picture on the upper left is what I'm going to be referencing today. On my Instagram, I asked on my story if I said, hey brides, if I've done a painting live for you, let me know if you'd be okay with me using reference of florals from your wedding for a tutorial on YouTube. So I had a pretty good feedback on that. I think 20 brides said yes. So I was going through all their pictures, and this is the one I wanted to start out with. So I might be doing other wedding florals in the future, but for this one, this is the first one we're going to do. This was a wedding in June of 2024, I believe, and she had gorgeous, colorful florals. So I want to paint that scene right there. I'm just going to obviously not have anybody's neck in the background. I'm going to kind of make it just like a blurry background that kind of complements the scene. And I'm going to do this relatively quickly, just kind of block it in. And maybe I'll go into further detail at a different time, but for just getting it started in the basics, that's what we're going to do today. All right, and yeah, if you guys have any questions in the chat or you want to say anything, let me know. Happy New Year to you guys. All right, so I'm going to start with my supplies here. So we have an 11 by 14 inch canvas. Actually, this one's 9 by 12. Tomorrow will be 11 by 14. This is 9 by 12. And then I'm using my disposable paper palette here, and I'm using acrylic paints. I like to use heavy bodied acrylic paints, and I have a variety of brands for my tutorials. For my own realism paintings, I tend to stick to the Charvin brand and the Liquitex and the Golden professional quality brands, but for tutorials I'll use brands that companies will send me. So I have like My Paints, stuff that I get from Michaels, so like budget friendly all the way up to professional grade quality. But for our colors today, I've got titanium white, yellow Hansa light. This one's like a Naples orange. It was called just orange on the paint tube. This one was called vermilion hue. So when it says hue like that, that means it's like not super strong of a color. This one is carmine red. This one says phthalo blue, but it's like phthalo blue mixed with like white and a little bit of pink or something. It's not a true phthalo blue. And then this one is cobalt blue. This one is burnt umber. This is terra verte. This one is hooker green. This one's called pale purple. And this is like a budget-friendly version of alizarin crimson. So those are the colors that I have today. I also have a cup of water here just outside the screen. And for my brushes, I got a large flat tip brush for getting like the background stuff the bigger things blocked in. I have this little liner brush for getting some of the pretty little stems and a couple of the littler details. And then I have another couple filbert brushes here. So filbert's like half rounded top, and I got another flat tip brush. So yeah, we'll see what I end up using. I might not use all of those. And then I have a paper towel just to help clean things up. And now with all of our materials, I think we're ready to get started. And I'll keep kind of checking on the chat there, so if you guys say anything, then I'll reply. Alright, so I'm going to get started with sketching out the concept. I usually sketch it out with, I mix like a blue and a brown just to get like a neutral kind of color. And I'm going to hold this up like this real quick so I can just put a little marker where center is about there, because that's a little easier for me to see when it's up. All right, so there's that. Now I'm going to look at my reference photo. I think I need to get another monitor here because I need to see the chat, I need to see my live stream, and I need to look at my reference photo. Da, 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 da. There we go. Reference photo. Okay, now I'm gonna use the brown, and I'll just mix like a little hint of red and a little bit of white in there so it's not too dark. And I'm gonna dip the brush in the water again. Right now I'm just using that filbert brush. Also, let me know if I sound too quiet or if like the audio isn't good. Please let me know. All right, so I'm just taking a look at my reference photo. And where center is, we've got a little cluster, and I also don't know the names of all of these flowers, but cluster of some pretty little flowers right there. And we've got this nice big rose right here. So I'm just kind of doing really basic shapes for now, just to see where things are. So that's a rose. And we've got these stems that kind of come from that rose, not quite to center from left to right. It's gonna come down, pretty little leaves. There's one under that, and another little one. This is like a little stem there. Another pretty little leaf right there. It's not quite that big, but that's okay. And another one, we'll make it come about to center and down. So there's my leaves. Next, I'm gonna work on down here. There's just like a cluster of, I believe these are hydrangea. And they don't quite go that far out, so I'll just get the little cluster blocked in. And then there's some more little leaves down here. And there's just like a little bit of something right there. You can't quite tell what it is. This is just dark in there, really. And a couple more little light pinks, little flower right there. And I'm not sure what this flower is called, but it's a pretty white flower. And that comes, let's see, from center. It's about halfway from center to the top, maybe a bit more even. And it's got these really pretty white petals. So I'm just getting the general shape, seeing about how far it comes. It goes to about center. And I don't want to use like a super dark color to sketch this out, just because there's a decent amount of white flowers in here. And if I use something too dark, then that's just gonna it's going to be difficult to paint over that later. All right, next we've got this little stem, some little pink flowers in there. And if it helps you to like put a little hint of color in there, like here, just so I know, okay, these guys are pink. Sometimes that is helpful when you're blocking something in, just to know what you were working on, know where you were working. So when you come back to it, you're not like, what was that supposed to be again? Okay, this is blue, this is pink. We've got another It kind of looks like a rose. I'm not quite sure if that's a rose. Because it's not quite as high up as this one, so the top of it's about there, and the bottom is about the same spot as that one, so it's smaller. And I'll put that there. I don't think that's a rose. There's that general shape for that one. And then we've got a little circle for this. This one looks like some type of a daisy. So I'll just do a quick, get the general shape of the petals. And then we've got another, okay, there's another white flower up here. That's small. It's like this one. And another one, same as these two, but it's a bit more open right here. Actually, this one's different too. This one's more like this flower. Lots of pretty white flowers. Put that there, another little petal in there. Okay, and then we're gonna have some more blue ones, so I'm just gonna take a little bit of blue. Up here, we've got a couple stems, and the flowers are just kind of coming off of there. Just gonna have that go off of the screen. And there's a couple little stems right sticking out there too, but there aren't flowers on those. Really, it's just leaves. And then I got that guy. This down here. Just gonna put the other little daisy in. And it's a little messy down here, a lot more white flowers. Can't quite tell, can't quite see the center of any of them. It's just like a cluster of some petals. So we'll just put that in there. And then a little bit more blue flowers. I believe these are more hydrangea petals right there. There's a leaf right there. And a few more little hydrangeas, a few more leaves. Okay, so that looks super sloppy, but that is our sketch. Now that I've got it sketched out, I'm going to start blocking in the background. So I usually work with the background, get that blocked in first, and then we make our way to the foreground. So I am actually not even going to use this large flat tip brush. I'm just going to go right to this filbert brush, and I'm going to start blocking in the background color. So I like the idea of like a brown mixed with a cobalt, like kind of like the hair color in the upper center to the right-ish. I like that as like a background. So I'm gonna go with that, and I'm just gonna start blocking that in with the brush. I mixed in my umber, my cobalt, and a little bit of crimson. I'm just gonna start with those nice dark colors. I wanna go right up to where I have my edges on these white flowers. I don't really wanna cover that up much. Like I mentioned earlier, it's just a little bit trickier to cover with the white paint. Get this blocked in. And I'm gonna take a little bit of that purple, a little more cobalt. And I'll just do a couple little crisscrosses just to get things covered. I want nice, good coverage. You know what? Let me remove the reference photo. There you go. Now you can see what colors I'm mixing. Okay. Haha. All right. I'll come back and get more of this filled in. I'm gonna mix in a little bit more of my reds, a little bit of yellow. And there's a little space right here. Trying to get nice, even coverage. Don't want to leave any white space peeking through for the background. back and forth with the brush strokes. A little bit more purple. Just covering up all that white space. Don't want any super streaky brush strokes either. And I'll take a little more cobalt down here. A little more umber. Going right up to these edges. The petals. Okay, and then down there we have our hydrangea. A little bit more purple. A carmine red color. You can use whatever colors you'd like for your background. There we go. I just mix a little bit of white in there. I'm just doing crisscross patterns just to get nice, good, even coverage with the brush. I want to get nice and dark again with my blue and brown. Just do a little bit more cobalt down here since I'm gonna have those flowers. A little bit of that phthalo blue color over here, just keep it dark. Okay, and that looks pretty nice. And in here, I can do a little bit of that right there. Maybe a little bit right in there. Maybe a little bit right there. And right there. Okay, so I got the background stuff. Just cleaning off my brush. And make sure everything's working here. Looks good. Dun, 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 dun. Boom. Okay, pulling my picture back up. All right, now I'll start to block in some shadows on those white ones. And the white flowers have a lot of subtle little color changes in them. There's some color and light bouncing off of the other flowers around them. So I'm mixing in white with a tiny, tiny little bit of my yellow Hansa light. And I'm just gonna start blocking in some of this here. So I'm gonna cover up this guy. I'm just coloring the whole thing in this color pretty much. And I'm really thickly laying on the paint here because I don't want that background color to seep through. And I'm gonna use just a hint more yellow and a hint of this orange just to get a little bit of a different color for this one. And again, I'm keeping this real loose, guys, with the brush strokes. There we go. Okay, do a little bit more there. And now I want to get a little bit of the shadow color. So I'm going to mix in a little bit of that Terra Verde. And I can put a little bit of that right there. And it's very subtle, the shadows on the white flowers. And when you guys are using acrylic paint, don't forget that when you are painting, your dried acrylic painting is going to be like a hint darker than what the paint looks like when it's wet. So, okay, I just mixed a little bit of that Terra Verde, some of the orange, a little hint of purple, and a lot of white. Maybe a hint more yellow will get in there too. It's just like a nice little earthy gray, very, very light. And I want a little bit more purple. I'm gonna start a new little circle spot over here, a little blendy spot for this one, this flower. And I'm still using this larger brush just because I don't want to get all caught up on details just yet. I'm going to mix in a little bit of brown into that little spot. Yeah, I want to just focus more on the general shapes and colors before I get locked in on details. And I'm gonna use a little bit more brown, just kind of swirl it in there so it cools down a bit, and just fill in this little gap between those two. Maybe I'll take a little bit of orange, put that right there, a little bit of yellow. And a little bit under there too. Where else is this color? Maybe like a hint in there. And maybe like a hint down here. Coming out of there. Okay, now I'm just gonna wipe that extra paint off my brush. Go back to that lighter white with like a hint of the shadow color in it. I'm even gonna add a teensy bit of the cobalt. And that cobalt was stronger than I thought. So I'm gonna mix more white in. And now I can add in these little white petals down here. Okay, a little bit, just blending those together. This one's a little darker in there, and it's a little bit darker right under this petal, mixing a little bit of that bluish color into my white, cool white there, just to get a little shadow on that flower. And we'll mix in more white with our greenish, earthy color. More white, just to lighten that up. I'm gonna take the extra paint off my brush here. And now I'm gonna use a little bit of that yellow, the white, and I mixed it right over that purple area. So there's just a little bit more, little purple added to that. So it helps to mute that color down just a little, so it's not like overly yellow. And now I'm just blocking in those shapes. I'm gonna take a little bit more of my umber, mix it with the green, terra verde. I think I want a little bit more blue in there too. And I'm just gonna follow the general shape of the flower, blocking in some little shadows where the petals come together. Okay, I like that. And I can take white, mix in a little bit here where I had some blue, and I'll just block in these daisies. Don't want to use super pure white when you're just blocking in the petals. Pure white's great when you're adding highlights on things. So if you start with pure white, then you can't really go any brighter than that. So it helps to start with a little bit lower value. So the value scale is how light to dark things are in your painting. Mix a little bit of purple in there too. And it's a little darker, closer to the center there, I think. All right, there's a little bit of light on here. Just take a little bit of the white, just plop that on there. And let's do this guy. So I'm gonna start out with just white and a little bit of my cobalt and a little bit of my brown and my orange and more white. Yeah, I'll do a little hint more brown. Yeah, that looks nice. Okay, and I'm just gonna block in these big white petals. I want to try not to leave any white space. It's a white flower, but we're covering up the white of the canvas. Mix in a little bit more of those shadow colors, just a really subtle. This goes right up to that pink one. Mix in a little bit more of my purple into my brownish. And I want to mix a little bit of orange in here because the orange is kind of reflecting off this orange flower. Just a little. And a little bit of pink is bouncing off on this side. And then I could take just some pure white real quick and add some highlights. Really thickly laying the white on. I'm starting to get a little bit of life here in the painting. Next, let's work on our little pretty orange rose. So I'm going to start with my orange color, mixing it in with white and a little bit of that yellow. And lots of white. Gonna mix a little bit of that red carmine. Wow. A little more yellow. That carmine red's a strong color. Woo! It needs more yellow, I think. Yeah, all right, I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm gonna block in these outer petals that are highlighted first. A couple more little highlights and just get that. Okay, now we've got some kind of in shadow here, so I'm gonna take a little bit of my umber. I think that I need a little more umber and white and a little bit of yellow. Yeah, I like that color a little more. I think ideally what I would love to have there is like a burnt sienna, but I didn't put that on my palette, so we'll make do. And I'll just get a little more umber. Down here we've got more in shadow. Then I need more of my red and orange for right here. This inner part of the petal. I'm gonna mix a little bit of umber in there too. And I'll take some orange and white. I didn't really clean off my brush yet, still got those colors on there. Alright, that gives me a little bit more of what I'm looking for. Take just some straight red here where it's coming in to the petal, and then on the outer part I need more of my cool colors, cool pink, and then just some brown. I got the general things blocked in for that rose. We'll come back to that one. Now let's block in the light blue florals. So I'll start with some phthalo mixed with that cobalt blue and white. Mix in a little bit of that hooker green color too. And I'm just gonna start down here. And I want even more white. And these kind of go up and behind these petals, or these leaves. Again, I'm trying to block out all the white space, no more white space. Mixing in more white And we'll do a little bit of purple in there, that pale purple. And this phthalo blue is a liar. It's not really phthalo blue at all. I can make like a hint of yellow in there to get a little closer to the color I want, but if you're using phthalo blue, then use like a reputable brand phthalo blue. And I could mix in some umber with that phthalo blue color, and just that'll give me some nice shadows for in between the little clusters of flowers here. And I'll just block in a few more. Just use straight up cobalt blue in some spots. We want these to go pretty much right up under these nice leaves. And we got more over here. Mixing more of my cobalt. And some white. Okay, let's see. I see somebody in the chat. T-Town, Mary Ellen, very pretty. Thank you. Thanks for stopping by. Happy New Year. All right, and then at the top, I'll use more of that phthalo bluish color and a little bit of purple. Just give these guys a little different color. They're a little bit more of that warmer blue in the reference photo that I have, but I'm gonna use this color to help separate them from the hydrangeas. All right, I'm mixing just the deeper shadow colors for right under some of these, like the part where the petal's not really visible, like the inner part of the petal. There we go. Okay, it looks pretty. I'm gonna use a little more of these cobalt blue. There's this one over here. And we've got a few more of them in the middle here. That's where this cluster was. Kind of covers up that one. Take more white. All right, got these guys blocked in. What else do I need to block in here? These are leaves. Just get this stuff in there. All right, I'm gonna start working on my leaves, guys. So I've got this Terra Verde, the hooker green, and my cobalt. And mix in some white. More of the hooker green. Okay, and that's basically what I'm gonna use. I'm still using my filbert brush. And I cleaned it off a little bit there. Take a hint of yellow. And if you guys are just hopping on now, I was talking about starting tomorrow, I'm gonna do a tutorial every week again. I did that for a little while, that was like years ago, and then I got really busy, and then I had a baby, so I kind of didn't make a whole lot of tutorials last year, but this year, my baby's like back on a schedule for now, you know, knock on wood. But we have a plan for me to make a tutorial at least once a week, every week this year. And the first one is going to be tomorrow. And I'm going to have a little bit, I'd say that tomorrow's going to be way more beginner. Tomorrow the theme is going to be like a sunset silhouette, palm tree type of thing. So if you're watching this right now, don't be discouraged about tomorrow, because this one's a puzzle compared to where we're going to be starting out tomorrow. I'm just going to start blocking in some more little leaves, different colors here. Use more of that hooker green, some brown. Just throw a few of them down there. Mix in a little bit more of that phthalo blue color. Let this cover up our background a bit, just give a little bit more dimension. I can use a little bit of this color in some of these little shadow spots in here. Some of them are covering up other flowers. Covering up all that white space over there. Can add a few right over here. And I'll add, right here we're gonna have some. And we've got a few more over here. And a little bit this way. And there's a little bit more right in here. I really probably should be switching to a smaller brush soon. I just want to fill in a little bit more here. Take a little bit more of my carmine red. I'm going to fill in this spot right back here with a little bit more purple. Oh, I know, my screen's over. Does that happen to you guys when you paint? If you're looking at your computer, does your screensaver come on? All right, there we go. And I think I'll do a little bit more of this blue and purple for this spot right here. And now most of my background is filled in. Just a couple little green spots that I'll touch up later. Okay, so now I can start to add more of the details. I'm gonna use some yellow and just mix that with a little bit of orange. And like a hint of that green color. And we're just gonna put that right there for our daisy. Pat, pat, pat with the brush. That looks nice. And let's see, now we're starting to block in, define more of these features on here. So let me add more white paint. I always need more white paint. Okay. Now, let's see how I want to approach this next. I'm gonna finish, let's work on this rose actually. That's a nice one. All right, so I'm gonna start with some red, white, my yellow, and I'll do a little bit of umber that had blue in it. And just mix those colors back up. There we go. All right, so that's a good like outer rim color there. Bring that down, get the next layer in. Need more orange. I think roses are a little tricky with acrylic paint because the paint dries quickly. All right, now I need another little shadow in there. With oil paint, you can get some nice blending happening. With acrylics, you just kind of need to work quickly. So like, I'd say roses, what else? Clouds. Clouds are way easier with oil paint in my opinion. Just because they, you need lots of blending for clouds. All right, getting some of that in there. Get a few more of these shadows. Mixing a little bit of that bluish color because I'm getting some deeper brownish, cooler shadows down there. Mix a little bit of my crimson in. Okay, and now I'm gonna do some highlights. I'm just gonna mix white with that orange and a teensy bit of that yellow. Nice and bright. Maybe a hint more yellow. Okay, and I'm gonna go on this rim here, maybe even more white and yellow. Nice and bright, okay. And then we're gonna get this little, so I'm just very gently holding the brush here, getting our nice little rims of the petals where the light is catching it. A little more orange for this one. A little bit of dry brushing there, just letting the paint blend by very gently pressing. And there's not a whole lot of paint on my brush. Again, they're letting it blend a little. That blend down a bit. Add more highlights. Now more highlights again on the different little rims, petals. Okay, a little more orange right in there. Blend that some more. A little more white. And our light highlight color. Okay, more highlights. for a quick rose. That's a general gist of things there. Need like that deep red right there, and another little bit right in there. A bit more orange. So yeah, it's easy to get caught up on the details. I'm just gonna do that, and we're gonna let this sit for a bit, and we're gonna I can come back to that later if I want to, but that's in general. There's our rose is blocked in. All right, and let's see what else we got. I like that one so far. I think I'm gonna do a little bit to this spot right here. I'm just gonna add a little bit of brown umber with my greenish. Just get a couple little shadows in there. And I can do, this is a leaf. Oh, mix more of my terra verte and white with a little hooker green. And these are like clusters of little flowers. They're like little bulbs, like they didn't bloom yet. Okay, looks good. And then I'm gonna take my crimson, and I'm gonna start with that down here for these ones. And then we'll take white, a little bit of that vermilion red. And I can get some highlights on there. And I'll take some yellow and white, get some highlights on the stems. Okay, I can do that over here as well. I think I actually want that a little bit darker. I'm just gonna I put a little bit of cobalt on there, and I'm just going right over what I just did. Adding more of the little flowers that didn't quite bloom yet. There's a leaf. All right, that looks nice. And I can do the same thing, add a little more white. Add a few of these over here. Okay, I'm gonna add some white to that cobalt cooler color there, and just get a couple little details on those flowers. Get more of my umber and cobalt. Okay, let's see who else. Somebody else in the chat. RWS 1957. Hey Stoof, glad to see you live. Yay, thank you. I'm figuring it out. I have gone live before, but I just did it like straight in the YouTube website, and this time I added an app that allows me to get like the split screen for you guys, and I can like show the reference photo and fun stuff like that. So I'm not tech savvy, so we're learning. I'm learning. All right, blocking in a few more of these little dark green shadows in here, just to keep covering up the white space. Let me pull up my reference photo one more time. There we go. Did you guys all have a nice new year? 2026 is going well so far for everybody. Hopefully. Blocking in some of these stems. Add a little more white. A couple little highlights in there. Okay, like that. And I'll take more cobalt white and add some highlights to some of these little leaves. Those ones too. Couple more there. That looks nice. All right. Let's see. It's late. What time zone are you in? I am in East Coast time. I'm near Pittsburgh. So yeah, it's like 10. And yeah, most of my, so I want to do live streams or a pre-recorded painting tutorial once a week this year. And they're all going to be a little bit later because I have a baby and she is awake until like 7 or 7:30 sometimes. So, okay, now I'm working on the hydrangeas down here. But yeah, so I'm planning to do a live stream or have like a video posted every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. this year. That is my goal, to have one up every single week. And I think it'll be nice to have you guys to chat with, hopefully, and we'll see if we can get like a nice little community going by the end of the year. And just like work on some paintings together. I mixed a little bit of yellow in with that. So I just added like a couple little shadows in there. I'm gonna add more of my little highlights. I need more white. There we go. Gonna work quickly here. Just trying to get the general shapes, not going too crazy with the details. And I think hydrangeas are another flower that are like gorgeous when you paint them with oil paint, because there's like such a beautiful little blend on each little petal. So that's another thing, that's another flower that I would love to paint with oils, but we're using acrylics today. And all the tutorials I'm planning for this year, I'm planning to do with acrylics, unless for some reason everybody's like, can you do one in oils? Then I could do that. But in general, I mean, the way that I learned painting was I started with acrylic and then I graduated to oil, and that worked pretty well for me. There's always some stuff that is easier with oil and some things that are easier with acrylic, but I think it makes sense to learn, if you're new to art, I think it makes sense to learn acrylics first. I know some people have done oils first, and that worked out really well for them, but the issue with oils is that it just takes longer time for everything, like for stuff to dry. So like when you're trying to learn the basics of like blending and stuff, it's a lot more challenging because of the slow dry time with oils. All right, I'm gonna add a few more little shadows in here. And it's looking all right. Not my best I've ever done, but we're working quickly, and I'm trying to just get the general gist of things. All right, got a few more little leaves, stems and stuff. There we go. And then this one's got some green in the center. Just mixing a little bit of my yellow with my orangish colors that were there, just to get it more muted down. There we go. Mix a little bit of umber or white. And let's get the shape going here. A little bit more white just to calm down that little brush stroke I put in there. All right, now I need a little bit of cobalt. And some of these little petals got a little bit of like a cool color. Mixing in a little bit more of that reddish there too. A little bit of yellow just to get a nice gray basic color there. All right, now I'm just taking pure white and I'm gonna add my highlights on this one. A little highlight in here, and I'm just lightly pressing with the brush, kind of dragging the paint around. A couple little brush strokes here and there. All kind of working their way around the center region. Trying to do a little bit of blending there. Okay, and then down here I'm gonna use some brown and cobalt. We've just got like some shadowy, let's use some yellow too. It's like another white flower, but it's not really visible. So I'm just gonna block little shadow colors in here. And I'll just put a little highlights there, that'll work. Okay, and then for this daisy, I'm gonna put a few more shadows, mixing my cobalt and white with those other little colors in there. And just get a little bit of some brush strokes going out from that central part of the daisy. Each little petal's got its own little shadow. And again, we don't want to go too dark with our values, or else it's going to look too dark. It's going to dry darker when we put the paint down. Okay, I'm liking that. I'll take my pure white again, do a couple more little highlights. Let me know if how the audio sounds to you guys as well. Like if that tapping I just did, if that was really painfully loud, please let me know, because when I do that on my other tutorials, like on iMovie when I'm editing it, sometimes that sound is like, ooh. Okay, and then I'm gonna take some yellow, some orange with white, and some little highlights. And I'll take a little bit of green, brown, do my little central part there, and a little bit under there. Alright, I like that. Alright, what else do I need to do here? I think I'm going to lighten up this stem leaf. add a nice little stem. Can add a little bit more of my crimson to white. Touch up these guys in here. Another little highlight, red and white. Okay, let's see. I found when painting flowers, it's good to try and paint them impressionist style because it's hard to get the details. Yeah, that's a good strategy. Especially if you like start out that way. If you really like the details, you can add the details later. All right. Let me add a little bit of my orange and that vermilion. Just a couple little highlights in this little rose back here. And then touch this guy up. Oh, this is a nice empty white spot. Let me cover that up. Take some brown, a little bit of orange, a little purple, a couple more shadows. Let's take some yellow in there too. Okay, works for me. I touch up these little more yellow and purple mix just to mute things, no crazy colors. Got these little white flowers in there. Take some white. That looks nice. And touch up these guys in the middle here. Mixing my cobalt and white, a little bit of purple. And we've got a nice little, oh, needs even more white. It's got a nice little stem thing that kind of feeds into the flower. And there's another one right there. And this one there. And I'll take more of that phthalo blue color. This one's pretty dark down here. Take more white. And then we've got to get these guys up here, so I'm going to get some of the tops. Mix a little more cobalt and purple in there. Just get a little more dimension on these. Make them look a little less flat. Okay, that looks nice. Can take more cobalt and white. Lighten them up even more. I think I'm gonna add one more color, guys. I want to add this. It's just called blue, but it's it's like a warmer blue. Yeah. That's the color. All right, just touching up these last couple little things here. Add a little bit more green to the stem. well. All right. I'm just gonna have this come off. I'm gonna put a few more little flowers or little leaves up there just to balance it a little bit. Put a little more green in some of these ones. And maybe a little one coming out of there. Can darken that one a bit. Now I'm just like looking at everything as a whole and seeing, okay, what can I do to just give this a little bit more depth?